Anyways, so I guess we're at the big moment of the night, everybody. We're going to be talking about 1954's Ishiro Honda's Godzilla.
This is the 1954 Godzilla Criterion Collection, which is great, except when you open it up, that's not Godzilla 1954, that's Godzilla 2000! They fucked it up!
Cheers, Jake.
That's Jeremy's buddy Jake. That's a good catch too, because I bet you there's lots of posers that didn't realize that.
Well,
What an egregious! How egregious is that? That's crazy.
Yeah, as somebody as prestigious as Criterion, how could they miss that? Yeah.
How did they miss that? Like, for real?
Yeah.
I mean, like, I understand that the old Godzilla suit is like not great to look at. It's not as aesthetically pleasing. Which we're going to get into. I think that actually makes it better. It makes it scarier to me. But yeah, that really tickled me when you sent me that video. I was like, holy shit, because I had never bought the Criterion because I've always been planning to buy that big set.
Right.
So I'm just kind of waiting for the day where I am like up late enough to make a bad decision and hit the buy button. But yeah.
There's a great like fan cover out there that they could have, or even like on their own like original design board that they could have put together where it's just the shape in shadow or something. You know, you have like the skylit city and just something that was just more ominous. It still looks like that original Godzilla.
I mean, some of the still frames from Godzilla's attack on Tokyo are so striking.
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't you just use that in your packaging for the movie? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that stuff is so striking. It's so gorgeous.
Yeah.
I actually rewatched like Godzilla attacking Tokyo like 5 times.
Right.
Because I was just like, so cool.
Mm-hmm.
It looks so amazing, and I can't wait to get into it. So we're going to be talking about 1954's Godzilla, like I said, directed by Ishiro Honda, written by Takeo Murata, Ishiro Honda, and Shigeru Kayami. It stars a bunch of Japanese people. I will not insult them. The logline plot synopsis is American nuclear weapons testing results in the creation of a seemingly unstoppable dinosaur-like beast. And here's a little trailer.
1億6ヶ月の死闘が生んだ世紀の巨編ゴジラ。映画技術の粋を集め大東宝が全能力を上げた空前のスペクタクルゴジラ。本年最大の話題作ゴジラ。
Oh boy, everybody. See, that's some of that striking footage I was talking about in that trailer. I actually had to cut out most of that trailer, and I knew nobody that's watching this knows Japanese, so it's not going to matter. But that old trailer literally just tells you the entire movie.
Yeah.
Like, it's a 2.5-minute trailer. I think it was restored by Toho not that long ago, a couple years ago. And it just gives you a synopsis of the entire movie. Like, what they're showing at the end there is towards the end of the movie. It's like the big set piece of the movie. Trembling asked, was it the one that added Raymond Burr and a bunch of Dr. Pepper product placement to the American version? Yes, it was. You're talking about 1956's Godzilla King of the Monsters, which is one I have seen a ton of times and even threw on again in preparation for this conversation, because it is so funny to watch how they lazily inserted Raymond Burr. I mean, the shots don't even match. It's awesome.
With a bunch of just like Japanese American actors like standing around him.
And he basically acts as, because he's like a reporter or a journalist or something, and he acts like kind of a narrator to explain to people kind of the context and some of the Japanese kind of social norms of what you're looking at. He's like, then we were at Oshodo Village. It's an island village. And they've heard stories of a giant creature. That's pretty great.
I rewatched some scenes of King of the Monsters, but like I didn't do a full revisit for this show. But what you're bringing up, like, there's so many of those moments where I'm just like, yes, I can fucking see that, Raymond Burr. You don't have to explain it,
dude. It makes me laugh so much. Like, actually, when the one of the first attacks, the Odo Village thing, when they're in the aftermath and all the villagers are there and they're like looking, and it's just Raymond Burr. They just have an insert shot of him like looking over somebody's shoulder with a pipe in his mouth, going like, interesting. Look at these footprints. Like, It's awesome. And then they have the scene where the like the paleontologist guy is like describing what Godzilla is. He's like, and it's so inappropriate because it cuts to him standing what's supposed to be on the wall of the other side of the room with a bunch of other Japanese guys. He's like, hey, my Japanese isn't so good. Like, what's he saying?
Yeah. See, like anybody today would do this as a joke. Like, oh, I'm like, what was it?
It's like Kung Pao.
It's just like, I'm just gonna insert myself. You know, like,
dude. It kind of there are moments that are just like Kung Pao.
Yeah.
So early on in the movie, like during it's just like the aftermath of an attack, and the girl is like a nurse. And she's like helping people, wounded people out. And in the original movie, she goes over and crosses the room and helps out a little girl. And the King of the Monsters version, they dub in Raymond Burr being like, Shizumi, over here. And then and then it shows her walk across the room where she would have met the little girl, but it's Raymond Burr, and it's just like a double, and you never see her face while he's talking to her. It's amazing. Yeah. It's great. It's some really fun stuff. It's like me, my son and I have watched that one a lot because for up until recently, and still he's not quite there yet, but he couldn't read well enough to keep up with subtitles.
Right.
And actually, when we watched it the other day, I read all the subtitles to my boys. I did all the voices. It was nice. And sometimes I would be taking notes, so I'd stop, and he's like, "Dad, what's going on? What are you doing?" Trembling says, quote unquote, now please send these poor people a crate of refreshing Dr. Pepper on me. Pretty much. It is very much like that. Yes. So, Jeremy, 1954's Godzilla. What is your personal history with Godzilla, the Godzilla franchise in general? Like, are you a fan? Did you grow up with them? Like, when do you come to Godzilla?
Well, I'm glad you asked because I've got an example right here. Everybody who had a video collection, if you didn't see this on somebody's shelf,
I had it. Yep.
As a 4-year-old, I was like, oh, I gotta see this.
Yeah.
The marketing for this was insane. I was a little too young, but I was also like old enough to kind of see like commercials and everything for this. I'm like, I don't know how I ended up watching it, but go ahead.
No, I was gonna say you must have been like, how old were you?
Yeah, I was like 4. Yeah, 3 or 4.
Yeah, perfect age.
Yeah. And by the way, that tape is great because it comes with its own free Godzilla flashlight.
Oh,
or
damn.
flashlight, depending if you want to know what it feels like if Godzilla's
sucking on your dick.
Sucking on that. Yeah.
You ever get your dick sucked by Godzilla? I have.
So unfortunately, it's not as cool as other people that saw the original stuff, but it started with the 98 movie.
That was your introduction. Okay.
Yeah. And then my parents years later kind of schooled me a little bit, told me there was an original movie. They would show me clips of like a couple of the films I think we had access to. I don't remember if we didn't own any Godzilla movies, but we definitely rented them a few times. And so I was really only acquainted with 98, and then just the other kaiju flicks that the monster battle of the year,
gotcha.
ones. And then I go to film school, or at least I start getting into more of the history of film through my middle school years. And then I backtrack. I'm like, oh, this had to have come from somewhere. And I did do my research, and then I ended up watching King of the Monsters before I saw the original because Criterion didn't end up picking it up until like 2004. So it took a little bit of while for me to acquire it.
The Criterion one is 2011.
2011. Oh wait, okay.
Yeah,
maybe I'm thinking even further back. Yeah.
Yeah, that's when they did that because Toho actually did their own remaster like a couple years later that is superior to the Criterion one. So,
okay.
Yeah.
That might explain it then. Yeah, because I wasn't too well versed with that original print, but.
Yeah, people don't like. You got to remember, like, you got to think about at the time period we're talking about. Like, things were not just readily available. Mm-hmm. There was not a channel or a streaming service or anything. So if you didn't go out and seek these things yourselves or have somebody give it to you, let you borrow it, go rent it, whatever, like you just wouldn't have any awareness of it. I mean, at all. Like, cause, so it's kind of I guess it's cool nowadays
Right.
Is it though? Is it cool though? It kind of cheapens it. Makes it like it's like not having to work for stuff. I don't think is a good thing.
It's something and it's it's like sort of the cult aspect of it starts to like lose you a little bit more now when more people know about a product or property, and then they kind of like a fan base can like, speaking of The Crow, like I like the movie fine. That fan base I cannot stand.
Is there a Crow fan base?
There's like an underground cult that thinks it's like the next Citizen Kane, pretty much.
They think like Wicked Prayer is the best one. That's when you get into the real Crow fans. Like, no, actually Eddie Furlong was pretty great in that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Give him credit.
Yeah, listen, Eddie Furlong, that was one of his greatest performances. The Crow, Wicked Prayer. I think that could be the David Boreanaz one. I'm not sure.
Right.
But anyways, so you end up tracking back. At this point in your life, have you like seen most of them? Have you seen all of them?
I haven't seen all of them. I'll say firsthand, but I've seen most of them. I've seen like clips and reviews and abridged versions of all of them. But
yeah, well, because we kind of talked about this when we were talking about the Turtles. Like, how does a new generation become familiar with these things?
Right.
And did you have any influence by the one and only James Rolfe?
At one point, yes.
I was going to say, because he talked about these all the time.
His Godzilla-thon series. And it harkened back because I probably have the most memories with what they would call the Millennium era of Godzilla. That one last like resurgence leading up to like Godzilla Final Wars, which is probably the one I'm the most, still to this day, the most nostalgic for. Would rank a lot.
I can see that,
yeah.
They're just like, what? All the popular styles of movie at the time were just like crammed into Godzilla Final Wars.
Yeah.
They're having Matrix fights.
Right.
It's awesome. It's actually, if I have one complaint about Godzilla Final Wars is that there's too much people. There's too many people in that movie. There's too much shit in that movie, but it's fun. We watch it a lot around here, actually. Right. We watch the Millennium era a lot. Godzilla against Mechagodzilla is a fucking banger, dude.
Yes. Yeah.
And then the sequel, which is very rare that they have direct sequels to each other. I think it's Tokyo SOS, which kind of completes the story. Those are super fun movies. Right. So much fun. It has the best Mechagodzilla versus Godzilla fight is in that one, in my opinion. For me, I was always kind of a passive fan of Godzilla. Like, I had seen the movies kind of here and there, like on cable over the years. But I didn't have a huge, strong attachment to them. I can't even remember the first time I saw the 1954 Godzilla. I know I saw it like when I was a kid, but it was a long time before I saw them again. I probably got reinterested in them around the time Legendary started putting out their movies, just because kind of Godzilla was back in the zeitgeist a little bit. Kind of like yourself, though, I did grow up watching the Roland Emmerich Godzilla 98 movie. Yeah. I mean, that was a huge movie. It was kind of inescapable at the time. Everybody I knew saw it. Everybody I knew didn't know what to think of it, I suppose. I feel like that was kind of the general consensus of a lot of kids at that time, because it's a very character-heavy movie. It is very unwieldy. It's bloated. Yep. It's a Roland Emmerich movie, essentially, for lack of a better way. Like, that's just how that guy makes movies, Arius Tinker says Final Wars is a masterpiece. Hey, listen, I'm not going to judge you for that. It's a fun ass movie.
Yeah.
So I grew up kind of with that, and then didn't really get back into it until my kids. It's my son Foster. He just really took a liking to Godzilla, and we became a Godzilla house. I was going to take pictures of his room, but that kid's got all his walls covered with posters, Godzilla toys, talking to like every era of Godzilla toy. We buy stuff from like the 1954 thing. We buy the Millennium era stuff. We've got Legendary stuff from the newer movies. And that's been a lot of fun. Kind of vicariously living through him and experiencing a lot of these things.
Yeah.
It's a cool way to do that, because I didn't get a chance to do that when I was a kid. But, also for myself, like a lot of my awareness of those movies is 100% from James Rolfe.
Yeah.
Even when I was in my 20s, he was making those videos and I would watch them. And it got me to check a few of them out even back in the day.
Right. And those early videos too, they're so short and sweet, but they really do put you into that childlike mindset again of like watching those for the first time and just being like, oh, you know what? The story doesn't necessarily have to make sense. A lot of these movies don't hold up. The costuming is kind of wonky, but this is just so cool to see monsters just punching the shit out of each other.
Yeah, there's something about like the material nature of it. Like we talk about this all the time, the texture of it, right? Like there's just something cool about it. Even if it's a little old-fashioned, anachronistic, it doesn't hold up to modern standards. Of course not. It's kind of its own thing. Like rubber monster movies are their own thing.
Yeah.
And you either can just accept it and go with it or not, you know? I mean, I think the movie we're going to talk about, 1954's Godzilla, is kind of stands starkly apart from pretty much every Godzilla movie that came after it or kaiju-related movie that came after it. I mean, 1954 is like a serious meditation on the H-bomb and the responsibility of scientists and creation and watching Japan basically reel from being decimated in World War II.
Right.
I mean, that's what the movie's about. And about how, as a society, they're dealing with it. It parallels very much with Godzilla -1 in that way. But yeah, they're a lot of fun, man. I mean, Ishiro Hondo as a director, too, like, you know, he gets his start making World War II movies. Does a lot of World War II stuff, hones in his craft, like using miniatures to do dogfights and stuff. That's kind of where his skill set was at. That's what he was developing. And then he makes Godzilla, and it kind of changes the trajectory of his career, essentially, because he basically becomes the kaiju movie guy, the kaiju monster movie guy. And he works for Toho, and he directs pretty much all the good ones. Pretty much. There's a few other ones that he didn't direct that are also pretty good, but he did things like he did Rodan, he did Ghidorah, like their own separate movies, Invasion of the Astro Monsters.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's a very, very cool, very talented director in his own right, even before he did Godzilla. And it's interesting him being like into kind of the World War II filmmaking makes him kind of a perfect match for this material without realizing it. I was kind of like curious about like, I wonder what they were thinking when they went in to make this movie. You know what I mean? Because he had done like a bunch of serious domestic dramas and war dramas up until that point. I wonder if he thought he was kind of having fun or making a lark, or if this was like the deathly serious thing. It seems like it is, because it kind of it presents itself very seriously.
Yeah, and I think that's why it didn't do well over in the States at the time of its reception, because it is kind of what you're saying, the juggling of those tones, where it's a very, very serious character drama first, and you juxtapose it with, at this point in time too, because we've already had our Universal monsters and a lot of these other like big pieces. I mean, America comes up with King Kong and everything too, and of course that finds overlap in the future as well. But people had like a certain sort of already associated a camp factor with these kinds of designs, and then to see it played so straight, I don't even really think there's like, rewatching this, I don't think there was ever really a joke or any like moments of like levity.
No, not really. Well, you know, not in the. I mean, when Raymond Burr was there, that was some knee slappers.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you believe they did that to that fucking movie? Anyways, like they're like, yeah, can we have the licensing rights? Of course, we're excited. Yes, show it to American audiences. Okay, we're gonna reshoot like a third of it and re-edit it. Fucking assholes. But anyways, yeah, no, I agree. Like, there is no levity to the movie. It's very, very serious. But it's such a well constructed movie, though.
Right.
It kind of coming out of the gate. I gotta bring up my notes here. Just coming out of the gate, the way that the movie begins, like the ominous nature of the scrawl of the credits, right? And it starts in silence, and then you hear that like the microphone noise, kind of, and then you just start hearing Godzilla roars.
Yep.
Which is just like this terrifying, monstrous, like kind of like guttural scream, almost more than a roar. It's like all of these different kind of sound elements. It's so, excuse me. I mean, I know that it has kind of an iconic sense of it now in the world, like where we see that and it kind of makes us happy to hear the Godzilla roar. But in the context of this movie, it's kind of like terrifying.
It's like an ear piercing, like sort of just like almost like a scream of just pain and agony and even anger. Just like something
exactly.
that's all at once.
That's the perfect way to put it. Because this movie, it's the cool thing about this, and it's something I think is often, I don't hear remarked on very often. I think people forget. They actually just flat out tell you where Godzilla's from in this movie. They literally tell you, like, yeah, they were like, because of all the atom bombs being dropped in the ocean and stuff, it kind of fucked up his underground cave. Like, he's basically a dinosaur that's been trapped either or lives underground, hibernation or something, right? And then he comes up to the surface and he's all irradiated and burnt and charred and angry and upset.
Yeah,
it's basically nature fighting back. Essentially, that's kind of the subtext of it. It's like, he's viewed as a force of nature in the movie, and he himself is a product of man's intervention with the natural world. Mm-hmm. And that's very, very much a big part of it. Because that's a big part of like the dilemma that the scientist who ends up making this kind of what's the name of the bomb? The oxygen killer.
The oxygen, the oxygen,
I think it's the oxygen killer. I could be wrong, but anyways, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, the big capsule.
That's one of his big dilemmas because it's dealing with, like we said, the fallout of World War II, no pun intended, and the idea of even creating stuff like, should we even be messing with this kind of stuff? Look at the consequences of it. Like, we can do it. We can make these things. Should we do it? Mm-hmm. Like, look what just happened to our country. And they woke up a fucking Godzilla as a result. Like, you know what I mean? And that's what's so great about the movie, because it kind of seriously grapples with those things, and it uses genre and science fiction in the best way to use it, which is to talk about real things in an abstract way to kind of make it easier to digest and more understandable for people. Like, sometimes people can't deal with reality. Yeah. So you kind of have to give them a little bit of like a metaphor or an allegory or something, right? To make people feel comfortable with learning the lessons. Let me see here. Aeneas Tinker says, what? Splicing Godzilla DNA with a rose doesn't make sense? Just a little bit. He also says it's destroyer. Yes, the oxygen destroyer. But yeah, I don't know. What do you have any like kind of initial thoughts? Or?
But yeah. I mean, to what you said though too, and him being like essentially a documentary filmmaker up until this point, it really does feel like that. I mean, there's some times where it does feel a little bit staged, but I mean, just shots of just people fleeing or reacting to what Godzilla is doing. Like, it's actually very still in that same vein, and it captures just that haunting meditation of what life in Japan was at that time, or even, like just after World War II. And and this is something I really took away from it, is just the expressions on people's faces and just the level of strength and bottling up of emotions that a lot of these people on screen still show and carry in themselves, even after just complete devastation. You don't see that kind of strength of character as often in the West. It's actually, if anything, today it's very.
We're not allowed to anymore.
We're not allowed. Yeah.
No, I agree with you, but there's so much like pathos in those. So it's like strength and resolve, but it's also like this helpless quality and this kind of feeling lost. Like the first time, I don't think it's this scene, but the first time that Godzilla shows up and he's like just destroying their infrastructure. He's just destroying this village's like electricity. Right. And they're just standing there and they're like, holy shit.
It's not working.
What are we going to do? Like, what are we going to do? Like, this thing, you can't nuke this thing. You can't electrocute it to death. No, the bullets don't matter. Yeah. I mean, look at that shot, dude. Look at that.
It's so good. And it's so great knowing that, like, the actor in the suit is probably like dying from a heat stroke right now.
And it makes me feel good. Yeah. Yeah. I like, we like to suffer for our art around here. Let's see. I know the guy's name. Let me see here. Original Godzilla actor. Well, I don't know his name, rather. But But yeah, and it's something you don't see, especially from this era of science fiction movie. A lot of times they're a little bit campier, a little bit sillier.
Yeah.
Than this. Even when dealing with things like this, I kind of thinking about. I watched recently War of the Worlds from the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a very campy, silly movie. It does not reach the levels of Godzilla. I mean, look at that shit, dude. Hold on. Let's go back for a second here. Oh my god. I mean, oh my god.
It's still like so well. The fog, the lighting, the glow that like his scales kind of give off. It's still so cool.
Oh yeah, and I think like the black and white nature of it is like so key to its aesthetic. It's almost got like a noir vibe to it.
Right.
Like the night scenes with Godzilla. And it's just an amazing like kind of technical achievement for its time. But like I gotta say, I think it works really well today. Like that Godzilla costume is so gnarly looking. It's so ugly that you can't help but be kind of afraid of it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it gives me the creeps. It straight up gives me the creeps.
Mm-hmm.
Look what he did. Look what Godzilla did.
That scamp. Yeah.
That scamp.
These are the shots where I'd say like
thank you, YouTube. Thank you for the fucking thank you.
The Lego cars like spiraling out of control and falling over. Like
if you were
maybe
gonna
cut that just a little shorter or something.
If you were to criticize anything that doesn't hold up, is definitely some of the miniature work with the vehicles. Yes. Yeah. Although that's a tradition they've carried on up until I mean, up into the like at least Godzilla 2000. Yeah. Where they, did that kind of model work. It's kind of almost like a tradition for them over there, and which I think is cool because it just adds to the vibe, the texture.
Yeah. Well, it's fitting for those later films for sure. Because I'd say for me at a younger age, like it was just reminding me of being like, oh yeah, I could make something like that too, and make it look, just kind of like immerse you into that.
Hey, listen, as a young filmmaker, or aspiring filmmaker, it does give you that kind of sense because you're like, that is possible. Yeah. And I could do that. I don't know how to do it now, and maybe I don't have the resources or the money, but that's achievable. That's the thing you could do. That's how I felt. I remember when I was a kid, I used to be so enamored with the Evil Dead movies. Yeah. Especially Evil Dead 2. And a lot of that was because I wanted to make like a grindhouse kind of horror movie. And I was like, oh, I could actually do that. I mean, not literally, but you could see the handmade nature of it. Mm-hmm. It lets you know that it's possible. Yep. It's like kind of exciting to watch. I still get Jones. I still get like jacked up watching like that Godzilla footage. I think it's so well put together. That scene is so well paced. Yeah, and it shows you just enough,
just what he's capable of at like full force and. Not and this brought me back to is just I'm so watching this again and Godzilla -1 and Shin Godzilla. I have no interest or impulse to want to go back to any of those legacy movies really at all anymore. Like
oh, you mean the legendary ones?
Oh, the legendary. Sorry, why did I say legacy? Any of the legendary movies? I saw.
I know exactly what you mean. I think if you like for me, because I feel the same way most of the time. Yeah. But I have come to just accept them as big dumb movies for kids, and that's kind of what they are. Like especially now, after Godzilla versus Kong, like they are just big dumb movies for kids. They're not. Yeah. They're not trying at anything. Like when 2014 came out, Gareth Edwards, they went for pathos. They went for something a little bit darker, more serious. And it's just gotten progressively sillier because at the end of the day, that's kind of what a modern audience wants out of these movies. Yeah.
But I mean, at this point though, I just don't even have a care with how they characterize Godzilla now. I don't want him to be the indifferent creature feature. I like him being like a force of destruction. Like he is the evil threat that needs to be put down.
Yeah, it's definitely my preference for Godzilla movies because the 60s and 70s ones, the campy ones. I mean, they're fun to watch, but they're retarded. Like they're so dumb. Right. Like you cannot they're just vehicles for the last 20 minutes. Like you're just like, okay, look, crazy scientists. All right, cool. Yeah. Ultraman or whatever it is. Yeah. Not Ultraman. My son would kill me.
Jet Jaguar.
Jet Jaguar. Thank you.
That's my PlayStation name, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're big Jet Jaguar fans around here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get with it. Yeah.
Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, dude. That's a banger. That's a banger one. I love that one. It's got like all the aliens from outer space that look like apes. It's awesome. And it's kind of a sequel to Invasion of the Astro Monsters, I think. It's kind of like a sequel to it.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, I have like, as in my personal preference, I definitely agree with you. Like, I like the more serious, although I feel like Godzilla -1 kind of nails it by being a big populist kind of crowd pleaser while also being a serious Godzilla movie.
Yes, yeah.
You know, it definitely is the one that hews the closest to the 1954 film, 100%.
Yeah, I'd argue, and that one being definitely much more hopeful by the end than than even this one.
This one's a downer. It's a
I
bummer.
always it ends on the last 3 minutes. I'm just like, oh God, like am I supposed to be like happy, like this is like a victorious day that they stopped Godzilla, or should I be dreading the fact that what's his name
the doctor
Serizawa offs himself in the process too, and and I like that though too, because he felt it was a noble thing to do.
It's not just a noble thing to do. He cannot live in a world where his oxygen destroyer will be used for other things.
Right.
And it is the perfect kind of through line for the subtext of the movie.
Yeah.
Which is like, essentially is, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Right.
And then if you're brought to the point where you have to do something, you should the world will never be the same. Like you've changed something fundamentally about existence. It's so funny because we were talking about Oppenheimer earlier. It's kind of a perfect it kind of all works together, you know, Godzilla -1, Oppenheimer, and then coming back and watching this, because Oppenheimer in a lot of ways is about the same ideas as the 1954 Godzilla. Like, everybody's trying to create this thing. Everybody kind of knows that it's incredibly dangerous and that it's going to change the world in a fundamental way. And everybody is kind of forced to do it because they're in kind of an arms race. So in 1954 with Godzilla, the scientist, he kind of has to do it. He has no choice. It's like, either I do this, I let this out into the world, or Godzilla destroys everything. It's the only chance we have, you know?
Right.
And but Godzilla -1 has this great. It shouldn't work. It should be cheesy, and I should think it'd be cynical and not like it. But I was so happy, like the last couple minutes of Godzilla -1, and we won't spoil it because, like we said earlier, like it's not available to watch right now. Aeneas says legendary Godzilla is Roger Moore Bond movies, overblown and silly and fun. I see. That's kind of the way I feel about it. I think they're. I mean, at this point, they're just cartoons. They're like 80% just a CGI cartoon.
I agree with you.
I like watching it with my son. Like, that's really, I know that they're not great though, but
I agree with you there. But like, what I particularly don't like is that they don't fully treat them like they are cartoons though, in the tone. Like they still take themselves way too seriously, even in those. So, well, to some extent, when it gets to the fighting, like not so much, but like I don't care about Millie Bobby Brown and her family issues. I don't care about like all these.
Well, like by the time it gets to Godzilla versus Kong, they have stopped that. Like they don't care. They don't seriously care about it anymore. Like they tried to, with their King of the Monsters, the one that came out like 2017 or whatever. They tried, and no, now they're just really dumb. I mean, I can't even imagine how dumb the new one's going to be. I will tell everybody, trust me, come back here the week after that movie comes out. I will have seen it. My kid we literally have it marked on the calendar. Yeah. Yeah. I don't let him watch a ton of YouTube and stuff, but he likes watching, because, you know, I'm raising the new generation of movie nerd. So he's like watches trailer breakdowns and lore videos, and like so he's trying to figure out everything about the movie. Dude, he's like so excited. It's ridiculous. Wow. Yeah. Ridiculous. I was like, kid, I wish I had like half of your enthusiasm for anything that you have for this movie. Yeah. So that's going to be cool. I will say that's going to be cool just to see it from that perspective, but it's not
right.
Those are movies I would never argue with anybody about. I would never go to the mat. Like I would never debate. Like if somebody said, "Oh, I really don't like those movies. I think they're stupid." I'd be like, "Yeah, I get it."
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I totally get it. I do kind of. I mean, outside of the practical nature and the intentional camp of the old ones, though, I kind of sometimes I don't understand people that are huge fans of the older Godzillas like criticizing these ones for being stupid. I'm like, what are you talking about? I mean, if you want to measure it to the 1954 one, like I get that, but if you're talking about like Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, comparing it to Godzilla versus King Kong, like there's not that much distance between those movies. Like there really isn't.
Not a ton. I think it's more of a cultural thing, I think, for me, I guess. There's the Japanese camp that I actually just kind of like to have on in the background. It's fun. It's fluffy.
Oh yeah, of course.
It's just like the American camp feels like it doesn't know half the time what kind of tone it really wants. Sometimes.
Yeah, well, it's not going for camp.
Cause it shouldn't be hard. Like just pick serious or goofy, and then just roll with it.
I think they've picked goofy. I think that's where we're going now.
You think we're okay?
Oh yes, dude. I mean, King Kong's got like a robot arm thing to give him more strength.
Right.
I like at some point you're like, okay,
Yeah.
Fuck it, we'll watch it, dude.
Yeah.
There's a whole tribe of killer apes that live in the Hollow Earth. One of them is called the Scar King. It's like my kid all the time randomly just comes up to me. He's like, so another thing. He's like, remember that freeze frame I showed you? That's Shimu. I'm like, oh, okay. That's the ice dragon, Dad.
Right.
Like, I can't wait. Can't wait. I'm serious. I can't wait to go take him to see that.
I hope they do a re-release of the Emmerich movie again. Cause I want to go back and...
No, we are not allowed to culturally reassess the 1998 Godzilla. I will not allow it.
I missed out on this. I need this for me. I need to hear Puff Daddy on those like Dolby speakers.
Yeah, and if anybody's, I used to do a thing called Hot Reacts Only. If you go look on the YouTube page, I actually did one for Puff Daddy's "Come with Me." it's like my over analysis of the Puff Daddy music video "Come with Me." That was it samples Kashmir, the Led Zeppelin song Kashmir.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, just going back to the 1954 film, I mean, it's paced so well. It does such a good job of kind of introducing you to the world and the characters and the stakes. Like it has a really great like 20 minutes of like kind of mystery about what is going on and them trying to figure it out. And all of these kind of mysterious things happen. And there's the storms that are kind of raging and coming up. They're like, this isn't natural. This is out of season. Something is fucking with like the ecology out there.
Yeah.
And they're, obviously making a commentary on what like nuclear fallout does to the environment.
Well, and I didn't even live during this time, but a lot of it also feels like a realistic response from all these different factions of the Japanese populace in the time. Like, so the way the military, the way the scientists, the way that a lot of people are not really sure what to do with all this new information. I mean, this led to all the tropes that we would see in later incarnations of this character, but this kind of starts it all, and everybody's kind of in their own sort of frenzy.
Everybody has their own motives. Like they have their own desires of what they're trying to kind of get out of this experience, almost, right?
Yeah, the Professor Yamane character, he wants to study this thing like for most of the film, and like. I hate seeing that trope often, like in like later movies that are kind of like this, but like here, like you would have a guy that would be like that. This is like
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Who would? I mean, he has like qualms about it because, like Jeremy said, he's like he wants to study it. He's like, this is like the last of its kind. This is the last dinosaur. There's a living dinosaur out there, guys. I'm a fucking paleontologist. Of course, I want to study the dinosaur. And if you fucking nuke it or oxygen destroy it, there's gonna be nothing left. Because there is kind of a melancholy about the whole thing. Like Godzilla, even though he's doing what he's doing, is in his own way a victim of the atom bomb.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like, and they kind of acknowledge that. That's what that character's there for. There to kind of acknowledge, like, this was done to him too. Like, what do you think he would be upset? He was irradiated. It's like set on fire underwater. Godzilla's sleeping in his cave underwater for 2,000 years or whatever. Gets woken up by the H bomb. Mm-hmm. And I kind of like that. But it represents all those different viewpoints.
Right.
And and another I would say is the third best Godzilla movie, Shin Godzilla. It even has an element because Shin Godzilla is kind of a satire, and it's all about Japanese bureaucracy and the way their government functions in incredibly inefficient ways. That one's about Fukushima, essentially. But there's even that in here, where there's a bunch of bureaucrats and they don't really know what to do, and they're all trying to figure out and making decisions. Nobody knows what they're talking about.
There's the one lady who's just like, we need to get this out to the public now. He's like, quiet, silence.
Yeah, you can't just be telling everybody, Yeah.
I
mean, they're going to find out soon enough, but you don't want anybody to panic,
Yeah.
But I love, there's so many great moments, and actually I would say the professor's kind of character arc is probably my favorite character arc.
Yes.
Dr. Yamane, because he really has to grapple with it and come to terms with it. And he is just like, it's such like a human moment where he has to literally be confronted with its destruction to understand, even start to understand why this cannot be allowed to be. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like in those Jurassic World movies where they have a bunch of like save the dinosaur activists.
Yeah.
And like, you're like, what?
Right.
Like, I understand that it's not their fault, guys. We get that. But dinosaurs and humans can't coexist in current day.
Yeah, they're not supposed to be here.
They're not supposed to be here anymore. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's I was like, this says everything about the modern moment.
It's so easy a second grader can get it. Yeah.
It's like, this is like a metaphor for immigration policy in 2024. Like, yes, the liberal white women being like, save the dinosaurs, let them move into my house. Anyways.
Yeah. I was going to say, the professor, he's played by Takashi Shimura, who, and that's the other, he's really great. He was probably maybe my MVP. I don't know.
My MVP is Raymond Burr.
Raymond Burr. There you go.
Well, he's all the way back from like Seven Samurai.
I was gonna say like these movies.
Akiru, he's the star of Akiru.
Yeah, I was gonna say like these are a lot of Kurosawa like regulars that are like scattered in some of these movies too. At least the ones that are directed by.
Because Ishiro Honda and Akira Kurosawa were like best friends.
Yeah,
and they came up in the industry together. Actually, a lot of their early films parallel each other because they're all about like wartime films. Mm-hmm. Actually, Ishiro Honda tried to retire after he made the second Mechagodzilla versus Godzilla movie. It was like the Terror of Mechagodzilla, which is not very good. But he wanted to retire, and Akira Kurosawa was like, "You can't retire. No, you're gonna come work for me." So then he just worked with Akira Kurosawa on it, like those late 70s through the 80s up until his death, pretty much. Yeah. In 1993, I believe he died. And that was actually kind of like a funny, like heartwarming story, like two bros that are on completely different ends of like the artistic spectrum of what people kind of view them as. And they have just it's kind of awesome to me that Akira Kurosawa had like the Godzilla movies. Like, that's cool. Yeah. That's awesome to me, and that he respected Ishiro Honda's like acumen and skill and talent so much that he used him in all of his movies. That was really cool. Actually, you see that a lot with a lot of the actors. There's lots of crossover.
Right.
Some of these guys, like Dr. Serizawa, the guy who invents the oxygen destroyer
with the badass eye patch.
Yeah, he went on to do bit parts in like a ton of Godzilla movies. Mm-hmm. He's in a lot of them. Worked with Ishiro Honda a bunch of more times on them. I thought that was kind of cool. Something that I didn't realize. I did not notice that. Yeah, and he also was like in the Ultra Q, some of the Ultraman movies. I mean, Ishiro Honda did a bunch of that stuff too. Ishiro Honda actually even directed he did one American movie, which is King Kong versus Godzilla. He directed that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
For Universal, which is not good. If you want to watch like a decent Universal movie from that era, You got to watch King Kong Escapes with Mecha G. There's a mecha King Kong that King Kong has to fight. It's awesome. But it's actually like the sequel to Godzilla or King Kong versus Godzilla.
Yeah.
For the old one, and it's actually awesome. Ishiro Honda, I believe, directed that too.
Where does Mecha King Kong? Do you remember where he comes from in that?
Oh God! It's like, dude, there's. It's like some evil scientist wants to mine for something, and he invents a mecha or King Kong to dig, and then it like decides it wants to not do that anymore, and like turns on everybody, and then King Kong shows up, and they're like, oh, now we got to fight King Kong. It's a very like it's very convoluted.
Right.
It doesn't make much sense. It kind of just washes over you. But the last 20 minutes are awesome. And I would even say the last 20 minutes of King Kong versus Godzilla, the old one, is awesome. It's when he shoves a fucking tree down Godzilla's
Classic.
throat.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's so much fun. Yeah, but it's and I really love that even like they have a lot of they had balls in this movie too. Like the first time you see Godzilla is during the day.
Right.
He's peeking over the hill. He's got
Yeah.
that little like peeking over the hill. Yells, everybody's like, ah, and they run and they take off.
I had it almost at full volume with my headphones in, watching it just on Max recently, and it actually got a couple jump scares out of me this time around too. Especially when you see what the oxygen killer is like capable of in the flashback.
Yeah.
And you see the fish bones just completely like dry up on screen. It's like, whoa.
Well, because it's cool because it's another credit to Honda, like understanding like even the oxygen destroyer has to be a reveal. So they kind of they foreshadow it because they don't show you the result of it the first time she reacts to it. It's all on her face. It's only when they do the flashback that you actually see what she saw.
Yeah.
Like the gravity of the devastation that can occur. Sorry.
Right. But it definitely adds. It's not like a major factor, but it definitely adds to what can also feel like a really low key horror movie, which you would not apply to the rest of the franchise.
No,
probably ever.
No, this one is so different than up until basically Godzilla -1.
Yeah.
I mean, even the one right after Godzilla Raids Again is like, it's not as silly as like some of the ones like that follow it, but it's already like, oh, people like Godzilla.
Yeah.
Like, let's show Godzilla doing crazy shit. I think Anguirus, I believe, is the guy, the kaiju that he fights in that one. I have to ask my son; he would know.
Yeah.
He literally would know. He'd tell you what year it was from too. It's like kind of crazy.
Right.
Yeah, it was the weirdest thing in the world because I just was not a big Godzilla person. I just never was really until I had my kid and we just like randomly watched one day, and ever since then it's been full on Godzilla.
Yeah.
But
so are you more of a so would you say you lean more Godzilla than you do King Kong? Or
yes.
How do you okay.
Yes, 100%.
'Cause I do too. Yeah.
I mean, I like actually King Kong. It's another popular movie around here.
Yeah.
Around my house. My son he loves the 1934 King Kong. He loves it. Which always baffles me. Because I'm just like, I just don't understand why you would like it, but he does. He does. I'm a fan of it. I've actually probably seen that one more than I've seen the original Godzilla. But
yeah, me too.
I mean, they're very cool, and like again, it's kind of like in the same way when you go back and watch Godzilla, like you're just kind of marveling at their ingenuity as filmmakers and being able to pull some of that stuff off at that time.
Yeah,
like using kind of the I guess was it rear projection they were using and matching the shots, and like there's a big mechanical hand. I mean, there's so much cool stuff in that. But so you're more of a Godzilla person than a King Kong person? You got no respect for Kong?
There's only one king of the monsters in this realm, and it's not in the wet. No, I mean, I like them both differently if I'm really breaking it down, but I would say I've seen King Kong more, but because it's just one film. Well, if you don't want to count the other, I mean, it was. But
Son of Kong does not count.
Yeah. But I think what also like appeals to me and speaks to the times that they were made in, and what we're seeing now with all these like CGI incarnations, minus one and Shin Godzilla exempt. I just like the blank stares. I like the animalistic nature of these characters. I don't want to know what they are feeling. I don't want to see expressions, in their faces, really. And I don't want to see what are just straight up cartoons at that point.
I gotcha. Yeah. Well, because there is like it's like hyper real,
right?
But there's something I think we're just we just appreciate and kind of have a taste for older stuff. I think that's just it's a taste thing at least for me. But there is just something different about a CGI creation and something that is physically there. There's just something different to your eye, the way it feels, the idea that you can just feel like you could reach out and touch it. Like that's what I mean about the newer ones. They're just like cartoons. They're cartoons. They might as well be just cartoons.
Yeah.
Honestly, like just don't even hire actors. Just make a big CGI movie. I mean, at some point, what's the difference? Like, what are you even doing?
Yeah, why even call Disney's Jon Favreau's The Lion King a live action movie? It's just one.
Dude, that was crazy. I cannot believe they called that a live action movie. I'm like, there's not a single shot of live action in this entire fucking thing.
Yeah.
It's like somebody asked me, they're like, well, what did you think of the new Lion King? I'm like, well, just take the Lion King and then remove all its charm and wit and and brevity. And then you have the new one. Yeah. It's just like a charmless version of the same movie. Awful.
And that's an example on the opposite end where they don't even make the animals expressive. They try their best to make them look like real animals that talk.
Well, they did.
It's a weird disconnect, though.
They did another one. Remember when there was like the Warring Jungle Book movies?
Yeah.
Because they had the Jon Favreau did the one for Disney, and then there was like that other one that Andy Serkis did.
Yeah.
Andy Serkis, when all the actors that play the animals did mocap for their faces, and they mapped like humanistic faces onto the animals, and it is the most terrifying,
it's so disturbing
thing. It's so weird. Like Christian Bale's like coming at it, like I'm like, whoa,
yeah,
that's Christian Bale's face, but it's not. It's like on a leopard.
Yeah.
Like this is crazy. This is weird as fuck.
Yeah.
Actually, I found out the guy's name who's the actor in the suit, Haru Nakajima.
Okay.
The Godzilla suit used for the film was so hot inside that the actor would frequently faint. So you got your wish. Yeah, he almost died.
Just like I wanted.
Just like we wanted, exactly.
That is commitment to the craft.
Listen, it is. It is. But yeah, I mean, I guess there's not like a ton. We've kind of covered it because you can cover it in kind of broad strokes. Yeah, but But it's talking about so many kind of things on different levels. Like I can't even imagine. I can't imagine being Japanese in the 1950s. Like, and what that must have felt like as a people, as a culture, and like Godzilla is an artistic expression of that moment, and that's why it's like kind of. It's sad. It's really sad. It's a really sad movie. Yeah. Like just top to bottom. I mean, these people can't catch a break.
No.
We're bombing them. Godzilla's fucking destroying all their stuff, and they're just like, what?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
That's why I like the -1 tile too, because before Godzilla shows up, they are already at ground zero. How lower can they get? Oh, Godzilla. But the hope, I mean, yeah, we don't want to spoil anything, but the hope you feel by that, but yeah.
Dude, Godzilla -1, and I will say this, if people are a fan of the 1954 one and they haven't had an opportunity to see -1, as soon as it comes out, make that a priority, because it's, I would hesitate to say that it's better than Godzilla, because you can't have Godzilla -1 cannot exist without Godzilla, so it can't, I don't think it can be better, but fuck, it gets close, dude. Like, because it just delivers on like every aspect that this movie is also like kind of delivering on, but just more,
right?
In a more impressive way. I mean, like the attack sequence in -1 when he attacks the city, dude, like holy shit. I'm sure people have seen pictures of it. but it's crazy when you actually see the movie.
Right. Yeah.
You see the scene. Actually, it might be here.
I have to, yeah, if you can find a, yeah. No, I had to convince my own dad, who like regards all of these movies, even the original 1954 film, as just like total camp, not worth your time, just like goofy. And I'm like, give -1 a chance. I mean, you gotta put on, I don't know, not even like nostalgia goggles, or even feel like you're a kid. You just gotta like go in knowing they don't make movies like this over here with this kind of concept. It's just like it's unheard of right now.
Yeah, and having like characters that are like
having
proud of their country and like want to like do something good. And,
yeah,
which we used to do quite a bit over here.
We used to, yeah.
We don't anymore. Let me see here. Well, I have. Here's 30 seconds. You know, actually, when I saw, I won't play the sound, but when I first saw this. I hate to say this, but I did record a part of the movie on my phone for my kid, and which I don't recommend doing. You shouldn't do. I was pretty low key about it, but they immediately took it down. I couldn't put it up anywhere. He got taken down off of Twitter.
Wow.
Which I was like, that's usually nothing gets taken down unless because I don't have a profile or an account that anybody's going to notice.
That's faster than all the Spider-Man No Way Home clips that leaked, because a bunch of like Mexican audiences were just like getting clips of it, of Tobey Maguire and everybody.
That's how Dan Profit watched the movie the first time, was just clips on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like he pieced together the story by watching all these clips people were uploading. Oh yeah. This is not going to sell it, but dude, this is so...
Yeah.
I mean, like, and we were talking about CGI, right? We were talking about the legendary movies. I mean, this is a full CGI creation, but I feel like just the attention to the detail, the way they treat him, they actually kind of treat it like a guy in a suit.
Yes,
actually.
That's what I love about those two movies, because they're they know they can like block some of the uncanniness of CGI to still have it move around and look and be modeled after, like you say, like a suit. Here, I mean,
like
okay, this is a bad example. That's a bad example.
Yeah, I was gonna say, as we're talking about it, he does something that a guy in a suit could not do.
Yeah.
No, but like for the most part, he's a very stoic, lumbering, slow-moving creature. He's very vicious.
Yeah.
Especially when you get him in water. He's like a mogwai after midnight.
Right.
He gets very upset. Yeah, but this, I mean, thank you.
Even
in
Shin Godzilla, when he that first initial form he takes before he's even like full Godzilla, like red piercing like burns coming through his like crisp skin, like you don't see like this like weird Muppet looking dead-eyed, doughy-eyed like creature like crawling through the town. Like I remember when I saw it in the theater, like I shook my friend Jake's like shoulder, like this is insane. Yeah.
Well, because it's Shin Godzilla did like you said had done it too, but this movie does it as well. Like it recognizes and acknowledges that Godzilla has been hit by a nuke.
Yeah,
and he's all scarred and fucked up because of it. I would say even in Shin Godzilla, that's even more a part of the point. Like, because that is such an interesting, novel way to approach doing a Godzilla movie, and even the way they treat Godzilla in that movie is very unique. To the series. I mean, he literally is just like this lumbering thing that's just like just walking, falls over, hibernates for a while, turns into something else. It's great. It's awesome.
Stubbiest arms too. Like I don't know how he like pushes or picks anything up. He just moves his whole body.
Well, that movie's cool because they use Godzilla as a ticking clock.
Yeah.
They literally use the physical transformations of the Godzilla as a ticking clock that everybody is kind of racing against.
Yeah.
Before he starts moving again, it's awesome. Yeah. It's really cool.
Watching 1954 Godzilla again too, like, I'm drinking some Japanese Sapporo premium beer right now just to be in theme here. There is a drinking game you could probably do from here on out, like all the things that have spawned from that original film. If a train appears, Godzilla's probably going to wreck it and kill most of the people inside of it.
Yep.
Military shows up. Military is incompetent. They will shoot rail guns. They will shoot missiles. They will try to electrocute. All to no avail. It just never works out.
Oh yeah, what would you do, buddy? No, I was joking. You piece of shit, just slagging off these boys.
I would just like suck out all the oxygen out of H2O and see what happens. And I honestly, it is a little far fetched. I wonder how much like. What is like the stretch span of like? I mean, because he uses a bigger sample size of like, Serizawa of what he's been experimenting with for I don't even know how long. It's probably why he lost an eye or something.
Well, I assume he's from like a holdover from the war.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
I mean, he's cast way too young for that, but I think that's what the implication is.
Yeah.
Like it's part of that, like we were talking about earlier with the Oppenheimer kind of parallel, where it's like this arms race.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that creation was kind of his way of like dealing with that. Like, well, we're going to have our own fucking super killer.
Yeah.
And then he realizes what he did.
Sure.
You know? He's like, I may have been too hasty here.
Yeah.
But like, it's just, I don't know. I think for what it is, it's nearly a perfect movie. It's like perfectly paced. And like I said, like just from the jump, I wish I could live in a world where I didn't know what Godzilla was and I saw this for the first time. Because the build up to Godzilla is so good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even just the beginning with the fishermen's boats and they're all like blowing up and nobody knows what the hell's going on. And then all the people are like rushing the government offices being like, well, what happened? Where are they? Where's my family? You know?
Yeah.
Like it's really harrowing stuff.
Mm-hmm. Even the you brought this up when we went through the trailer, and the trailer basically spells out everything that happens. There's a fun little parallel with that, and like the news reporters too over the radio, who are also just kind of reporting everything that happens, even as they know they're about to die. You know?
Yeah. Hey, listen, it's the dedication. You know?
Right. Yeah.
The people need to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're kind of like a Greek chorus almost. Like
Right.
they're kind of filling out like the plot and the what's going on. Where are we? You know, if you know, especially as a person that's not from Japan, has no idea what the geography really of Japan is or where anything would be. Like, where is Odo Island relative to Tokyo? Like, I have no idea.
Yeah.
But those people, they kind of connect those dots. And when they did the American version, King of the Monsters, that's kind of what Raymond Burr does. Mm-hmm. He's there to explain to you things about Japanese culture that you wouldn't know and to kind of recap parts of the plot as it's happening. It's kind of what he does. And he's there. And then he talks to characters
all while safe from danger. They
put him in the scenes.
They put him in the scenes.
And he's like, dude, like there's one of the saddest moments. The first time Godzilla like destroys something, and it's when the doctor really has to come to terms, the paleontologist has to really come to terms with like the destructive nature of Godzilla, and we may have to destroy him and all this stuff. Like they're all just sitting on this embankment watching Godzilla in the distance destroy everything. And they're just like helpless, shell-shocked. And then there's just inserts of Raymond Burr being like, oh, wow, like with some dirt on his face. He was actually, I think he spent 6 days filming. That's it.
Yeah.
Although, credit to him, he did come back. He came back.
Does.
So
yes.
In 1984 in Japan, 85 in America, The Return of Godzilla, which is kind of the OG, hey, let's ignore all of the previous sequels. This is the sequel to Godzilla.
Yeah.
So they have their Japanese version, and then when they brought it over to America, I guess I don't know if they did it for fun or they just wanted to honor or something like the original 56 version that nobody likes.
Yeah.
They did a similar thing where they like shot a bunch of stuff with Raymond Burr, insert him into the movie, cut a bunch of stuff out of the movie. I've actually watched it. I've watched that version of the movie not that long ago because we went through a period where we were like watching all of like the 85 all the way through the millennium era.
Right.
As a family, that's what we do at our house. Get together and watch old Godzilla movies, and it's so funny. It's so funny. But Raymond Burr actually really loved being a part of the franchise.
That's good.
It was something he was like proud of. He was like proud of it, and when he got to come back and do the new American one, he was like, hell yeah, I'm there. Let's do it. And it's fun as a novelty. It's fun and worth checking out as a novelty 100%.
Raymond Burr was or is to Godzilla what David Warner is to the Turtles. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, kind of. Kind of, yeah. So secret MVPs of Godzilla. This is going to be tough. Thankfully there's not a lot of characters in this movie actually, like that have any like actual. You know who actually? I know who my secret MVP is. It's the old fisherman. When you first go to Odo Village and he's smoking cigarettes and he's just like staring out at the water.
Yeah.
And he's talking to that younger guy. That's my secret MVP.
Yeah.
Actually, I sincerely really like that performance because it kind of gives you a ground level, everyman perspective of what, like, because these people have old fashioned beliefs, like some of them. Like he's an older guy that still kind of has a sense of old Japanese culture, and he actually he gives a little monologue. He's like, back in my day, we would have sent a girl out into the ocean
to sacrifice
her to so bad things wouldn't happen, and we don't do that anymore. All we do is dance now. No wonder why this thing is here trying to destroy us.
Yeah, we're not going to argue in courtrooms over this. We're just going to
which is so funny because it's something
own.
They kind of incorporate into later Godzilla movies.
Yeah.
And it's not directly because they're not doing any human sacrifices, but there are, I think is it Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla? Where they have like, one of the main characters is this girl and she like sings a song to like wake up King Caesar.
Yes. She does like the belly dance or whatnot.
Yeah. Which is it's the modern interpretation of a human sacrifice.
Yeah.
It's what the guy is talking about while he's looking out of the water talking to that young guy.
Yeah.
And they cut back to them too during the first big storm that's like strikes hits the island. Mm-hmm. And if you watch the 56 version, they have that, and then they just cut to like Raymond Burr, who's supposed to be to their left, being like, "Oh my god." It's so good.
There's got to be a video out there where it's like Godzilla 56, but it's just Raymond Burr.
Just a super cut of all the Raymond Burr scenes. I'm sure there's got to be. There's got to be. Do you have a secret MVP? Anybody off the top of the noggin?
Not off the top. I mean, you brought up a good point though. Having it be like this tight 90-minute film too, and still have like such great level of world building. Like you're able to quickly associate like, oh, this village is very different from this part of the city. Tokyo's in this state right now. It's just you get it very quickly, and like that's sometimes really hard to pull off, especially if it's multicultural like that. Yeah,
100%, because it sets the stakes. And as you're watching Godzilla, there's a sense of escalation about where you are, even geographically, and what the populations of those places are. By the end of the movie, or at least right before the end of the movie, before they're out in the water, like, he goes from like that village all the way to Tokyo, right? Yeah. Like it's almost like he's just leaving a path of carnage and destruction as he makes his way towards Tokyo.
Right.
And it's like you said, it's cool, like, because it gives the movie a sense of pace, a sense of tension. Like, oh my god, it's getting worse. He's doing more bad things. Like he's destroying more shit. Like, and it just works really, really well. It's just really, really well done. Ishiro Honda, I have it on good authority. I'm officially going to give you the Zoobox Goes to the Movies Academy Award for Cool Guy Director. Okay?
Yes.
Let's dig up his bones and give it to him. He's going to want this. He's going to want to take this into the afterlife.
I got to say, by the way, my secret MVP has to just, if I'm really just being honest, it's got to be Haruo Nakajima, I guess, just in the Godzilla suit.
Sure, you know what? I respect that. That's a solid pull, dude. No, that's a good pull. No, that's the real answer too. Good for you, Jeremy. That's the right answer.
Thanks. I'm gonna give myself a big pat on the back for that one.
Hey, listen, like we watched some of the footage of that attack scene. I mean, that's a performance. Mm-hmm. It is not nothing. It's not nothing.
I mean, who knows how well he could have even seen what was going on during all of that too.
Nothing.
His wails, his cries for help. Get me out of this thing.
Yeah,
and everyone's like, "Oh, this looks great. This looks great. Keep doing it. Keep doing it."
The sound of Godzilla's roaring is just him like dying in the suit. They just recorded it, and it's just muffled because it's in a suit, and that's what gives it that weird sound. I think it's a combination of like it's like 10 different animals like stuffed together, but it's got this weird, almost like mechanical sound to it that just like gives me the creeps.
Well, it was partly supposed to be like, I believe, it was reported at the one of the original sound cuts was a weird like backwards strum of like not a cello strung, like being strung.
Oh yeah, I can. Yeah,
yeah,
I can.
like-
You can hear that actually.
Yeah,
yes.
they like rubbed it with like some metal or something. I can't remember how they first did, but it was like an original sound design that was more mechanical, and then turned into like this. Again, there's nothing like it. Not at the time, and still not
No.
even today. It's such a cool sound.
No, it's super unique, and I love it in the context of this movie. Like I said, I understand that it becomes like kind of an iconic sound that makes you feel warm inside, but in the context of the 1954 movie, that's fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
Imagine being that guy, that fisher, like people on like these island villages and shit, and just hear that, and you're like, "What the fuck? What the hell is that?" And I don't know if there's been like a Godzilla movie that's really made me feel that way again, except for maybe -1.
Yeah.
Obviously, I was outside of -1. They tried to with the 2014 one, the Gareth Edwards one. They tried to give Godzilla some gravity and make him scary.
Mm-hmm.
They gave it a shot, and I think I'm not an apologist of that movie, but I don't hate it. I think
There's
it's
a couple
okay.
points where it is almost effective, even if it's just for a couple short moments. I do like the parachuting sequence into
Yeah, I
the
was
fog.
actually just gonna bring that up. Yeah,
Like that's one of the few times where Gareth Edwards, like, he knows what he's doing, like really well there, and you really feel like you are in that POV of that of
and it gave Aaron Johnson.
Aaron
I think,
Johnson,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, and it gives you the sense of scale of Godzilla, which is weird, which is a problem the legendary movies have had. Like, he's all different sizes in every movie for
Right.
whatever they need him to be. And I think even in the same movie, like he will be like oddly different sizes. Like he's fighting King Kong. Like, King Kong is not as big as Godzilla, but he is now. But anyways. Yeah, no, he has a knack for that. Like, if you go back and watch kind of the movie that got him the job was Monsters. You ever see that?
Yes. Yep.
Scoot McNairy, I believe, is like the lead in that movie. It's like he made that movie for very little money, like $100,000 or something. And he kind of gets Godzilla because it was a very in fashion at the time was to give guys that had directed one low budget indie giant tent poles, because they're like, well, they'll bring their cred to it. They'll bring, man, those machines swallow those dudes up.
Which
But,
you can tell that movie is very independent, but like you would never guess like how low budget that was, because it actually does.
No,
still-
he sells it really well.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, it's all about how, and he kind of does the same thing, and they did the same thing in King of the Monsters, is that he understands like how to hide the CG amongst kind of atmosphere and smoke and using draw distance and all sorts of little tricks to kind of mask it.
yeah.
And for the most part, he does a pretty good job, honestly. I mean, I watched Godzilla 2014 not even that long ago, and I was actually kind of surprised how much I enjoyed it. Because I remembered like kind of thinking it was boring, and then coming back to it, me and Foster wanted to watch it, so we watched it, and I was like, oh, this is actually like this is not awful. It's a little bit more thoughtful. It's trying to be more in line with something like the 1954 movie, where it is very serious, and it has a weight to Godzilla. It has a weight to the notion of kind of just like nuclear testing in general, like of what it's kind of about. It just doesn't have the gumption to actually just make the movie about that, though. So they just kind of stick to the human drama, and that's kind of the subtext of the movie is like, don't abandon your family for your own whims. Like, that's kind of what the message of the movie is. And monsters fighting at the end.
I'll be honest though, I don't care for Ken Watanabe in those movies.
Let
When he
them
died, I was
fight.
just like, yeah, whatever. Moving
How
on.
dare you, Jeremy? He's just like Dr. Serizawa. He bravely sacrifices himself to juice up Godzilla.
He was the token actor to be there to explain things because we needed like some Asian representation.
Kind of. It's him and the French woman,
Yeah, yeah.
his partner. She's not a bad actress.
good.
She's the fish fucker from from Shape of Water.
Right.
Yeah, the fish fucker. That's what we call her.
The mute fish fucker. Yeah.
All right. So what do you have? I'm sorry.
Oh, we didn't. If we're kind of getting to closing remarks here, we didn't talk about the music at all yet, too.
Oh shit! Thank you, Jeremy.
Yeah,
you're right. We got to talk about the music. Iconic.
Such a fun rhythm, but also also just kind of gets you just energized and also feel like your life is being threatened like before your eyes when you hear it.
It's like almost like adventure movie music.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because it has that, like you said, it has that building rhythm and pace, and also incorporating the Godzilla roar into the soundtrack. I think was a masterstroke. It's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, let me get this up and going here.
But also, it's a mostly musicless film when you really
for the most
break
part.
it
Yeah,
down.
yeah. No, even all the cues and stuff are very short.
Yeah.
The longest one is, I think, the main theme. It's just 2 minutes 11 seconds. Oh yeah, yeah. Japan. You can still hear it, right?
Yeah.
This is what plays over the opening credits. Like, imagine if you had never you were 1954. You're a little Japanese kid.
You're
in the
shitting
theater.
your pants.
You're in the theater and you hear this. And they faked me out.
Yoshi with his spin top hat and big lollipop is about to go see Godzilla, and he's freaking out.
He's freaking out right now. He's terrified. He's hiding inside his father's suit jacket.
Yeah.
Because people used to dress up when they went to the movies back in the day.
Right.
I can't even tell you how many times I hear this in my house. Because we have, I gotta say it quietly, we have Alexas in our house. And at any moment, my son will just run into a room and be like, play the main Godzilla 1954 theme. Like it's like hero music.
Yeah.
You know? Who is this for? Is this for Godzilla? Or is this for the people?
It's for me.
Do you know who the composer is?
I feel like I should know because I use this a lot too.
I know. Oh, Akira Ifukube. Yeah, I definitely did not know that. I was about to say I know the name. I was like, no, I don't. I don't know that name at all. Yeah, unfortunately, he passed away in 2006 at 91 years old.
At least he got to live past the Millennium era to see that come to a close.
I wonder if he worked on any of it. He might have. They dragged these legacy guys back.
Yeah.
No, most of it's just stock music. Most of his credits are people that using the Godzilla theme. But yeah, it seems like he worked mostly on Godzilla movies up until near his death. He worked on Godzilla versus Destroya as like one of his first his last scores. Which Godzilla versus Destroya is a pretty good Godzilla movie.
Yeah, that's a brutal. Of the monsters, I would say. Like, I love that design on. He's practically like the devil in that one.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Is that is which one am I thinking of? Am I thinking of the right? Is the Destroyer the one where he turns into like Fire Godzilla? Like, no, that's not that one, is it?
No. Oh. Well, there's the
Is that, or is that the Millennia era King Ghidorah movie?
I think that's that one. But I don't now. I feel like we're swaying the fans of Zoobox into thinking that we should know this.
No, I mean, well, it's like, listen, they all kind of blend together. At least for me, they do. I'll be real with you. A lot of them blend together. I don't know sometimes which one is which because we just watch them. I just see parts of them all the time because they're always like on. Like, it's really not that weird for us to be like, I don't know what to do.
I
definitely
definitely
watch
get a lot
Godzilla movie?
of any of the ones that feature Mothra, like time and time again. I definitely get those mixed up all the time because they're almost kind of interchangeable.
Well, because
per
Mothra does
scene.
the same fucking thing in every movie.
Yeah.
Actually, Ishiro Honda directed the original Mothra movie, and he directed Mothra versus Godzilla, which is actually very good. But the Mothra movie is actually awesome if you've never seen it. I don't know if you've ever seen just the standalone Mothra movie.
Just
Very
scenes
good.
from it. I've never actually watched it in full.
And I have the Millennium Era Mothra trilogy, but I have not watched it yet. We got into Gamera for a short period of time too. Do you know what Gamera is? The flying fighting turtle.
I've got an 8-movie pack DVD that I still haven't even opened of just Gamera. And the one gimmick I remember is just like there's always like 5 like 10-year-old, 8-year-old boys just like running beside him going Gamera, 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 just like cheering his name.
I mean, it's probably annoying people that keep talking about my kids, but like my son Foster, he used to run around and sing the song because we watched one of the ones with the school kids.
Yeah.
And where, Gamera's like a hero at this point.
Right.
And they all sing him a song to like give him strength. Gamera, Gamera, Gamera. My son does that. It's awesome. He actually has a Gamera toy that he goes around the house saying Gamera, Gamera.
Yeah.
Actually, have you ever seen the Heisei or Millennium Era? I guess Heisei era.
Yes.
Is Gamera movies?
They're
very dark. They're very serious.
dark.
Actually.
Yeah, right. They kind of like veer away from him like shooting like rainbows from his ass and everything, right?
No. It's kind of trying to harken back to kind of the more serious kaiju stuff.
Yeah.
It's still goofy. It's still goofy science fiction, but they were like, I mean, the Heisei era of Godzilla into the Millennium Era is a lot more serious. I mean, those movies basically from 85 to 1997 or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is the Heisei era. They're pretty serious, pretty dark movies.
I was gonna say like they're murkier, the sky's red, everything's just like a lot more
nihilistic. Like there's something like kind of depressing about them.
Right.
You ever see like Godzilla versus Biollante?
Yeah. Yeah.
He's like fighting the monster from Little Shop of Horrors. Mm-hmm. he's was Sydney or Seymour? No, not Seymour. Wow, it's late. Anyways.
Yeah.
Seymour's the guy. No, I'm sorry. Lucille. Was it Lucille? We'll say that.
Yeah.
I haven't watched Little Shop of Horrors in a long time. Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. But that one's a lot of fun. Do you have any other favorite, like if you have your go-to when you think of Godzilla in your mind, outside of 1954, outside of Shin, outside of -1? Because I think we've pretty much established those are the best. Those are the truly good ones, right?
Right.
Do you have a favorite that you will return to?
Yeah, it's right here, actually.
Roland Emmerich's 1998 masterpiece.
But I and you know what, as a Zilla movie, I do just like that on its own. It's just a weird hallmark of the time.
That's nostalgia talking, Jeremy. I'm telling you, I've tried, dude. Actually, if people really want to know how I feel, I think there's like a 25-minute like off the cuff review I did of it like years ago.
Yeah. When
somebody requested it, so I watched it and I rewatched it and I with a critical eye and I wasn't super stoked about it. Honestly, it's not even that it's a bad movie. It's just kind of bloated and kind of boring to me. But I feel that way about a lot of Roland Emmerich movies. But I do appreciate that it's full of Simpsons actors and stuff. Like it's just like got the weirdest cast. It's kind of a wacky story. I wish there was more Godzilla.
Yep.
But dude, they really should have cut like 30 minutes out of that movie. I don't know why that movie's like 2.5 hours long. That's crazy.
It's a lot of just like, and it's not even like interesting human.
No, it's like sitcom drama stuff. It's like it could be a fucking side episode of Friends with Godzilla in it for like the first hour. Mm-hmm. I don't even mind Matthew Broderick that much. Like he doesn't bother me. It's just something about that movie is just so it's like oddly sloppy. It's just so unwieldy. But, got to respect it for what it is. And if that's the Godzilla movie you go to, I mean,
no, I was gonna say like for some classic ones on the side. You already brought up Return of Godzilla. I go back to a lot, or every once in a while.
Yeah, that one's actually really good.
Yeah.
They trick him into the volcano at the end.
Yeah, yeah, and even the goofier scenes, like when he's like chasing like the homeless guy or whatever, who's like trying to eat like this like 5-star meal for himself, it's still fun and charming in its own way.
It's good, yeah. No, that is funny as hell, and I do respect that Roland Emmerich had a little bit of that. Like he has some of that stuff in his movie too.
Yeah, yeah.
Like the goofy, like regular guy. Like is there actually? I know in one of the Heisei era movies, there's literally like a guy on a dock. And then Godzilla comes and like destroys the dock, and he's like, "Whoa!"
Yeah, definitely, yeah. Because they were playing with like different tropes, like okay, Godzilla's not the only thing. Like there's something else supernatural here at work too that's gonna come into play later. It's called evolving the world. Building on the world. Yeah,
building it, man. We got our universe to make movies in.
Yeah, I'd say from the Showa era, Destroy All Monsters is probably one I would go back to.
Yep.
And then Millennium Era, I got to go with Final Wars still. So can't help it.
What would I say? I think Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla is a banger. The ending fight between Mechagodzilla and King Caesar and Godzilla is probably my favorite of that whole era, like the Showa era sequences. I just love it. I don't know why. I watched it a million times. Foster and I watch it on its own. Somebody has it's like the Kino channel or whatever it was from like 20 years ago. Still has their old version of it up. What else? I would say Invasion of the Astro Monsters is one I revisited like a couple months ago. That's super. That's actually was way better than I remembered it being. And for the Heisei era, I would probably go with Godzilla versus Destroya is definitely up there.
Yeah.
I kind
that
of
would
like
be on my list too. Yeah.
Godzilla versus Space Godzilla because that's such a silly movie. That's the one that's got like the little like Tinkerbell girls.
Oh right. Yeah.
The aliens. It's like a very weird, it's very convoluted.
They're like space fairies. Yeah.
And then I guess this is a Millennia era one. Godzilla against Mechagodzilla, I think is excellent. So much fun. That has some really great fights in it. Yeah, and Foster and I actually saw that in the theater when they re-released it.
You know, it's funny that like King Ghidorah is always like heralded as like Godzilla's like main foe, but the more you break it down, like Mechagodzilla seems to be like the real.
He is the real one. Yeah.
Underrated champ, I think, here.
I mean, Ghidorah is cool. Like, don't get me wrong. I think the old, like, Ghidorah and the older movies, like Invasion of the Astro Monsters, and even the Godzilla versus King Ghidorah Heisei one is pretty good. Like, it's a pretty good one. Yeah. I just don't revisit it as much. I don't know. There's something, like, I just don't. There's something kind of, that one kind of gets lost in the mix.
Yeah.
Where I have a hard time remembering like what part is from what movie sometimes.
Right.
But, you know, I guess that kind of goes with the territory with these movies because there's a lot of this stuff where they are a little interchangeable, like in some ways. That's not even a knock against them. It's just a very specific thing, a very specific genre of thing.
Yeah.
And they have kind of an architecture of how they make them. Like the Showa era, that's a very definite style.
Yeah.
And they all fall into that style. They all fall into the same kind of pacing. They all fall into the same kind of structure. And I would say the same thing for the Heisei era and then the same thing for the Millennia era. They kind of just have their own tones and their own vibes. And it's easy to kind of forget which one, or to remember. It's easy to forget which one goes with which. At least for me it is anyways.
Yeah.
I could be an old man. Now you do have one more personal anecdote though, Jeremy. You're not going to get away with not telling people about this. So you said something about a high school mascot.
Oh, yeah.
There he is.
Sorry, elementary school mascot.
Elementary school mascot. Yeah. My apologies.
Yeah.
So what was the deal with this? Tell me about it.
I'll say because it's not really around anymore, I went to Matthews Elementary School in Austin, Texas. This is still the same location, I think, in this image, but we had a untrademarked, essentially green Godzilla mascot. I mean, we were all calling it Godzilla, and I don't know how our poor elementary school at the time was able to even like afford that kind of look, but it was the most badass thing ever. You can at least find pictures, I think, of somebody dressed up as Godzilla. At like one of their old like October like field events or whatnot. And then like a certain point, I mean, this is so long past me now, but you know, because I'm not even living around that area, but some person who took over, some member of the school board thought I guess Godzilla was too scary, too frightening, so they replaced it with that.
Oh, was it because they thought they were going to get sued or something? Because Toho is very litigious.
It could have been that as well.
Like Toho is like litigious in the way that more litigious than like Disney.
Yeah.
You know what Disney does when they find out schools play Disney movies? They try to sue them, and then they will like want money.
Yeah, like just like
it's kind of
like a videotape of like
the fucking kid that wanted Spider-Man on his gravestone, and Disney said no. Or it was one of the Marvel characters they own. I thought it was Spider-Man, and Marvel or Disney was like no. On a kid like he was like 10 years old. He died of like leukemia.
Jeez.
Like what the fuck? Really, guys?
Disney's like, unlike you, Spider-Man lives on.
If this kid gets to have Spider-Man on his gravestones, that means all these other sick kids will want Disney characters on their gravestones, and every graveyard will just look like an amusement park, and people will be confused. People will be confused. This is not the greatest place on earth. This is the graveyard, guys. But anyways.
We didn't, I guess, I mean, we did that at the beginning, but we didn't do our, like, classic rate the female character in the movie.
The female character?
Amiko.
That's true. We did not talk about Amiko. Amiko's she's a cutie pie. What are you talking about?
She's cutie. I liked her.
I did. Listen, I'm a good old fashioned Western American nerd. Like I'm okay with some Japanese strange. In fact, you could even say that it's preferable to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if I hadn't met my wife, I might be looking for a Japanese woman right now. Okay? I probably would.
Yeah.
They seem like nice ladies. You know, just don't get in a fight with them because they all know martial arts.
Right.
That's part of their culture over there.
Some of her acting, by the way, is a little...
She's probably the weakest link. Yeah,
she's a little bit. I hate to say that, but like her character comes off like very just either it's like just PTSD or she's bipolar or something, because she'll like try to like sometimes get into a grin when she's supposed to be like really sad.
No, that's definitely like I think a limited ability. I mean, you gotta like maybe that's just the stable of actors Toho had at the time. I don't know.
I guess so. Yeah.
Everybody's a little broad. It's
right.
part of it is kind of the style of the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I think obviously a lot of the other actors just kind of handle the material better. It's kind of like watching Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen in those Star Wars prequels. You have Ewan McGregor, who's clearly a better actor than Hayden Christensen, even though like the dialogue and the script is awful. He just kind of knows how to handle it.
Right.
And Hayden Christensen doesn't. Like he doesn't know how to say those lines convincingly. He just doesn't have it in him. You know what I mean? His instrument is not as refined. And that's probably something to the effect of what was going on, I imagine, with these performers, right?
Yeah.
Although, I mean, it's treated, like we said, it's treated like a serious drama. So it's not exactly like they're mugging or doing anything like that. Like it's pretty straightforward, serious social drama.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, so I can overlook like things like that because at the end of the day, that's where its heart is set. I've got to ask you, by the way, because this is my favorite quote from the movie, said by the professor. Godzilla was baptized in the fire of the H-bomb and survived. I want to ask you, Shaun, what voice you put on for your kid when you had to read that line.
I was doing like a silly old man voice.
Okay.
I think I did something to the effect that Godzilla was baptized in the fire of the H-bomb. Probably something like a little Japanese man.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I think I kind of went to my anime knowledge
right.
of how anime characters are dubbed.
You didn't go full Master Splinter or anything.
No, I didn't go full Master Splinter. I guess I could have, if I really wanted to lay it on. But it was, it was like 3:00 in the afternoon. It's not exactly theater time,
Right. You found a Kung Pao in between, I think. Yeah.
Actually, honestly, that's kind of what I was doing, like Kung Pao voices. Yeah, that was funny.
Oh, there's got to be a terrible dub out there of.
I thought about doing
54.
it. I thought about doing it because there is no English dub of the original movie.
Yeah, that's right.
If you want to watch a dub version, you have to watch the American release, which is the highly compromised Godzilla King of the Monsters, the Raymond Burr movie. But yeah, there is no dub of it, and I thought I seriously, when I was doing it on the couch, I was like, oh, I could do this. I don't know where I would put it, like what I would do it for, but it might be just kind of funny to just do my own sound design for it.
Yeah,
but yeah, I don't know, when would I have the time? It's like I would love to take all that Emmy Joy footage and cut a horror movie out of it.
Right.
When am I going to have the time to do that? It'd take me 6 years.
Emmy Joy, since she's getting back into the movie review grind, check out Godzilla if you're listening or watching.
Yeah, we should get Emmy Joy on to talk about a Godzilla movie.
Yeah,
like, yo, come on, Emmy. We'll do the Biolante one because that one's like, I'm sure she'd like the flowers.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
It's about opening up your chakra and everything. She'd get something out of that.
I think she would. You know what? And Emmy Joy seems like the kind of person that would be open to it. She's open to new experiences. We all know this. Okay. Our beautiful Emmy Joy. Just don't sign up for her program. It seems like it might be a scam.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. But anyways, well, I mean, I've exhausted all my notes and stuff.
Yeah, same here.
I don't know if you have any final words you want to leave everybody with about Godzilla 1954.
I will
go check it out.
Check it out, but I'm just saying, get this in your collection on VHS. If you haven't yet, you could win a Godzilla flashlight. Just saying.
Which you could do lots of things with. We're not here to tell you what to do with it, but there's lots of applications for that.
Yeah.
Lots of them. I would say, listen, if you've never seen this movie, definitely give it a chance and understand that it is not like most Godzilla movies. And go in with that mindset. Don't go in expecting or wanting it to be something that it's not. It's like actually a fairly serious, fairly grounded meditation on responsibility and country and mourning. And it's really cool. It's really something special. And obviously everybody knows that because it spawned, the franchise that it ended up spawning. But it's really interesting to go back to see where it started and just see how deathly serious it was and how well executed it is. And how, in my opinion, a lot of it holds up to this day. Like I'm serious. Like the Godzilla attack on Tokyo is one of my favorite sequences of anything. It's gorgeous. Yeah. It's terrifying. It's unique. It's
grandiose. It's epic. Yeah,
it is. But it really is, and it's something really special, and it really kind of drags you into that like emotional reality of watching something like that happen. And I really loved it, and the actors like deliver on kind of selling that reality.
Yeah.
But yeah, so definitely check out Godzilla 1954. And so we're going to be back in 2 weeks. The movie we're going to be talking about is Jeremy's pick this time. We're going to be talking about Curtis Hanson's L.A. Confidential. I almost said L.A. Noire. But L.A. Confidential, which I'm sure we will talk about L.A. Noire when we talk about L.A. Confidential. Right. Yeah, that's going to be a good time. I'm really looking forward to revisiting that. I actually haven't watched it in a couple of years, so it should be a good revisit. Should be a good conversation. That's another one that I have a very kind of deep personal history with. Because I watched first. I was a weird kid, guys. Like I was 12 years old when that movie came out.
Mm-hmm.
Totally owned it. I owned the VHS. I used to watch it all the time.
My parents had the VHS. That's how I first watched it too.
Yeah.
So, yep.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. So we'll have a lot of cool stuff to talk about from that perspective. But anyways, thanks again, Jeremy. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah. Tune into. I don't know how many the viewers tuning in watch Godzilla, but yeah, check this out. I have the same. Yeah, couldn't have said better myself. Yep.
So, Jeremy, all Jeremy's information will be in the description of the clipped versions of these, but it's pretty much at Jeremobie for most things, isn't it?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, so
or
if you guys-
Tough Turf Spader in some spots, because
Yes, but I think if you look up at Jeremobie, that comes up. So you can find us on X, you can find us on YouTube, you can find us on Facebook. The next episode of Nightcap is going to be this coming Tuesday. I actually have a guest coming, kind of a la Jeremy, where we're going to be focusing on a one singular character. And actually, funnily enough, it's a person your age that's that's also a Mormon. I can't get rid of you guys. You guys are everywhere. You're all over my life. Prophet was fucking raised Mormon. You're Mormon. Taylor's Mormon. Taylor Schnell is going to be joining us, everybody. He is somebody I've known since he was a kid. Well, known. I can't say I haven't known him, but I met him when he was a young kid. Nothing weird, even though it was over the internet. It's going to sound weird. We'll talk about it then. It's going to be fun. We're going to be looking at Cobra JFS. Is that the guy's name? King Cobra JFS? I can never remember his name. He's an online weirdo. We're going to have an all online weirdo night, and that's going to be a lot of fun.
excellent.
So enjoy that. Anyways, goodbye, everybody. I'm not even going to play anything. No outro music, nothing fancy. We're just ending the stream.
Peace.
Goodbye.